What's going on, everybody? First time out here on the camera for a vlog. After some encouragement from some friends recently and some really cool jobs, I thought I'd get on here and share. So here we go. I recently was contacted by American Red Cross to document some of the damage of Hurricane Idalia out on the west coast of Florida. That hurricane came through and shredded a bunch of the west coast of Florida, and some areas were hit really hard, so the Red Cross deployed me out that way to go cover damage, cover Red Cross operations out there, cover all sorts of stuff. And this job was a totally different deal than what I normally do, which is in the marketing and advertising space. When I got the call from American Red Cross, hey, can you go out on Thursday and Friday and go film some damage, and then we might extend from there, or maybe not. I was like, yeah, I can probably do that. They had to go back there in DC trying to get approvals and make sure everything's all good to go. And then the night before, they're like, yeah, we're good to go. Pack your stuff up and head west in the morning. And they were just like, yeah, just find some damage first. You know, go out into the affected areas and just film the damage, get a bunch of B-roll and drone shots of it. And they're like, we don't really have expectations because we know how this goes. It's a disaster. You don't know what you're gonna see or how it's gonna go. So just get out there, start filming, and upload it every night. And when you're done, cut a B-roll package, upload it every night, so we can put it to use immediately, basically. So we did that. We got out to the Gulf Coast, north of Tampa area, started exploring some of these neighborhoods. So I'll show you some of that now. This boat overturned and sunk off these people's dock. I'm guessing it fell off that dry dock. There was lots and lots of people moving carpet out of their house, like ripping carpet out of their house, pulling all their stuff out of their garage, and just piling it up to be thrown away because it all got ruined by floodwaters. So that was kind of what I was documenting that day. It was showing the damage, showing the effects, but nothing that crazy. One angle I started to mess with was this GoPro on the hood of my truck, and like it just looks so good in this shot. Like this area is flooded, people's houses are ruined, but it's also so beautiful. Just that juxtaposition is kind of fun to play with. I was kind of concerned, like, am I getting what they need? Am I in the right areas? I don't have any information. I'm just out here just shooting. Hopefully this is what they want. So I ended up finding a hotel day one, last minute. I was able to sit down, do my editing, put my B-roll package together and get it uploaded. And still wondering, like, is this what we need? Is this what I'm supposed to be getting? And they said, yeah, good job, got some damage B-roll. Cool, just keep doing the same thing in the area and hang out. Also, would you be able to, how long can you stay? I'm like, how long can I stay? I mean, I already pushed some things off just to come out here and do this, but I think I could stretch it through the weekend, through Saturday and Sunday. So they're like, okay, cool, we'll keep that in mind. Day two, I went out again with the task to just film more damage B-roll, document the damage in the area, and I found this area where this road was completely flooded and there's a car in a ditch. I was like, that didn't just get there by itself. There's a story there. And then I saw this woman walking over to her daughters through the flood water and ended up talking to her. So long story short, she was cut off from her home. She needed her clothes. She didn't have anything. She couldn't get her car through this water. It was probably 3 feet deep, maybe more, where we were. So she had walked through to go back to her home and grab something. And I talked to her as she was driving out to go find a hotel or something. She didn't really know where she was going, but she had her father in the passenger seat who was deaf. And there was, I think, 3 cats on the passenger floorboard, and her 2 daughters in the back, and her eyes were all red. You could tell she had been very upset, very stressed out, and she's just like, I don't know what we're gonna do, and it's really hard with taking care of my father's death and all this. I was like, geez, just don't drive through that and go find a hotel and go to Walmart or see what you can find for clothes. that was one of the interactions I had with people. I was like, man, this is really bad for some of these people. So silly me decided to drive through this water on my own time and own will, because I was definitely told not to do this. But I thought, we've got some clearance to work with, it should be fine. And you'll see in the shot here, I was driving through it. This is the hood-mounted GoPro. It was not cool and not a good idea, and definitely don't do this, because it was almost an instant big regret for me. So my truck was bogging down as I was driving through this, and I thought I was gonna get stuck. And I was, I was holding the gas down to just keep going and keep my truck rolling, but it was really chugging. I drove through it, didn't think about the fact that I had to drive back through it to get out. So I had to do that, and ended up driving back out behind this Jeep. And I let them go they were ahead of me, and I let them go and didn't want to get too close, but then they were going a lot slower than I felt like I needed to go, and I was getting closer to them. I was like, I can't slow down. Keep going, and we got through it. It was fine, but you can see, they're deep in it too. But yeah, don't do that. And I went back the next day also to this spot just because I thought it was interesting, and caught this landscaper driving through the water and got a drone shot of it. A couple of people pulled up while I was there flying my drone. They're like, can I get through this? I'm like, definitely not. Don't do it. I did it yesterday. Bad idea. Unless you're in a really lifted truck, or you've got a lot of clearance, or you have a snorkel on your vehicle, don't even drive through this. I drove around, still just driving around different areas, finding different damage and documenting, the effects in various spots of the coast. So went to this one area where I drove up to a home that had burned down. And I was like, how did this happen? You see the trees down, you see the flooded houses and the carpet ripped out, but how did this happen? And it was completely toasted. Just the roof was, had collapsed. It was all fried inside. And the people were in the back, picking their stuff out of their home, anything that they could salvage, like pots and pans, and just anything that wasn't completely fried. This is, I guess more of a journalism type skill, but approaching people in these situations where they've gone through something really traumatic and asking them, can I film this, or can I film you, is such a weird, fine line to dance, and you never know how people are going to react to that. So you gotta be super sensitive. A lot of times approach them without a camera, ask them if they're doing all right, and just talk to them a little bit about what happened and what you're doing and how you're trying to get them help and that kind of stuff. So after that, they let me get some shots of them, of their process they're going through, and some shots of their home. But that was devastating to see, and apparently happened because of a power surge during the hurricane. After I documented these two areas, I ended up heading up to an area called Horseshoe Beach that I had heard was hit really hard, and I was supposed to meet up with a local communications manager from the Red Cross and one of their emergency response vehicles that was going to be handing out supplies in the area. When I got there, it was the worst. It was the worst hit area. Here's the footage. You can see, this is what you expect to see when you see, hurricane damage shots. Houses in the middle of the street, stuff flipped over, completely wrecked, sheds thrown everywhere, people's houses just shredded. And this is what I needed to get for the damage B-roll, to showcase the real severe impacted areas. This one shot of the truck, the old truck stuck half in the water, was cool to see because I had seen it in an NBC article, and a couple other news outlets had used an image of it for a couple of their articles reporting on the hurricane. And I was like, wait, that's that's the shot. Like, I'm gonna get my own shot of this. And it was just cool to kind of tie those together. Like, oh, someone like from national news has already been out here and documented this, and it's been used, and I'm gonna get my own shot of it. And then we got into documenting what the Red Cross was doing, which was handing out these 6-packs of Anheuser-Busch sponsored waters and interacting with people, trying to make people feel comfortable and like they're taken care of. So that's where we really got started with the Red Cross. So the day was over and we went back to a hotel. We actually ended up driving all the way to Tallahassee because we went through Perry and it was completely dead. No power, nothing, hotels closed, no power to anything, not even the gas stations. They were manually pumping gas out of tankers into people's cars. I don't even really know how that was working, but yeah, we had to drive all the way to Tallahassee to find a hotel and sit down and do our editing and uploading and whatnot for the day. So that day I felt really good about all the footage I got. Lots of damage B-roll, started getting involved with the Red Cross, documenting their operations and efforts, and that was really what they wanted me to get out there and capture. So I was feeling really good. I also met the photographer that was out documenting, everything basically that I was supposed to be documenting on his own. And we hadn't been paired up or anything. And I started getting information from him, like, hey, where have you been seeing stuff? What's been good? What's been, not worth it to go out to this area? So I got a lot of information, and that ended up leading me back to Perry the next day, where I mentioned we drove through it on the way to Tallahassee. There was no power, nothing. Like, there were trees on all of the power lines within like 10 miles of the town. So there was not going to be power there for a while, which obviously meant there was a huge need there for people to be relieved by Red Cross shelters, emergency supplies, food, etc. So they had set up a shelter in Perry. Found out from the photographer that they had about 35 people staying there. And one of the goals was to get some client conversation on camera, almost like a testimonial video about what happened and how is the Red Cross helping. Because you got to think about it, like the Red Cross is trying to get more donations with this kind of footage and be able to financially support their operations and bring more food out, bring more help out. They're trying to gather money for that, and that's why they want these kind of testimonial videos. So at the Perry shelter, kind of got there, just kind of milling around, seeing what's going on. I didn't want to go in with a camera. Obviously, this is where people are staying because their homes were destroyed, and you don't really want to just walk right into that and say, hey, what's up? The camera crew's here to document and tell everything about this trauma that you just went through. So went in with no camera, and also just kind of sat outside and got some drone shots first of the area. Lots and lots of wind damage in this area. Trees down. You see homes were smashed. This is more of a mobile home and trailer kind of area where just they were absolutely destroyed. So I kind of captured some shots at the shelter of Red Cross getting prepped. They were loading out one of these box trucks and bringing these emergency supply kits into the shelter and stacking them outside so they could distribute them as people came in. So I was just kind of hanging out inside. It was like it was a basketball court inside. I can't remember what the building was, but people there were just cots and people were just sleeping in there and had set up with whatever they had left from their house in there, and they were safe and they could get food, could get water and take a shower and everything. I was kind of waiting on the Red Cross producer to get there and didn't really want to like intrude because it's like this is where these people are like actually living right now. I just didn't really know how to navigate that and didn't have a plan together yet. So I was just hanging out on the bleachers by the basketball court, and this guy came up to me. I had seen him in there. He was with his family. He had went out and I think he got a pizza somewhere and came back. And he said, "Hey man, where are you from?" And just started chatting to me. He's like, yeah, I was just out getting pizza for this other family here. He's like, I don't really have much. My whole house was destroyed. My family, I'm here with my wife and my 2 kids, but I'll spend every dollar I have to help anyone else out. And I was getting that pizza for these other people over here that were hungry and wanted something else to eat. I was like, that's cool. And he started walking me through how just everything that happened. And it was crazy. And the whole time was listening, just like, wow, like, dude, that's gnarly. I can't believe that happened to your house. Or I can't believe that, you guys were so lucky to like survive this tree falling on your house and getting here and all that. I ended up telling him, hey, I'm here to actually document this kind of stuff and talk to people like you so we can share your story and get more help out here. When I asked him, like, would you be willing to get on camera? He was like, I get nervous on camera. I don't really want to do that. I'm not really interested in that. I was like, all right, man, it's fine. Like, I'm not here to force you to do it. And it really wasn't. You're like, you can't force him to do it. So I was kind of bummed because he had such a good story, but then he was like, no, I don't want to be on camera. Anyways, he was milling around, doing whatever. I was still waiting around a little bit. He was walking past me again and was like, I'm going to go back to my house and try to find my belt. He didn't have a belt for his pants. And just on a whim, I was like, can I go with you? And he said, he kind of like chuckled for a second and he's like, I guess, sure. And it was about 1.5 miles from this shelter. I got out with my camera and started rolling. He started walking me through everything that happened at his house. You can see here there's a tree on top of his home. He walked me through how this tree fell, a 2x4 broke out from his framing and hit him in the head during the storm, knocked him and his girls over, and it was just chaos. But I was like, okay, so he's maybe a little bit open to being on camera, and he just went through and walked me through some of his house. Like, I'm gonna let some of this footage just run because his perspective is obviously the most powerful. And this is where I felt like, wow, I'm actually documenting this, and this is like doing the work, capturing the stories, actually going to his house. I didn't think I'd get any opportunity like this on the trip, and I felt like this was really, really powerful, especially the fact that he's staying at the Red Cross shelter. So I'll let it run, and you can hear him explain like some of the stuff that happened and kind of his lighthearted and thankful, humble perspective, especially when he grabs the cross off the wall. So.
Yeah, I don't know, it was around 8-ish, 8 something that morning the storm come in. We was watching through the window, watching clips of tree limbs flying around everywhere and watching pieces fly by faster and faster, and I couldn't tell my family to get away from the window, and impact, it went screaming and roaring like a lion screaming. Me and my wife was arguing for a minute, a little bit, just panicking, turned my head for a minute, and like a bomb went off up down here, and her screaming at me. I get up, gather my kids up, and look outside and run straight to my neighbor's house.
And this right here is what hit you?
That's right there. Bam. Thank God it didn't, you know what I mean?
Wow.
I'm just glad I'm safe. That's why I'm safe right there. That's why. This is why we're alive. This right here. We prayed all night just to keep us alive, dude. We prayed all night, dude.
Dude, you did something.
I prayed all night to keep us safe, and it destroyed everything. But this ain't nothing but old memories now.
While we were in there, he was rummaging through. He found his belt. He was going through some other stuff, and he pulled out this book, journal book thing. And he's like, "Hey, man, this is my journal where I documented a lot of my life starting a couple years ago. I kind of just went back through my whole life and just wrote it out so I wouldn't forget stuff, and because my grandma always said that I should tell my story someday or tell the family story, I want you to have it." I was like, whoa, dude, I can't take that. I don't think I can't take that from you, man. Like, that's all your memories. Like, you should give that to your kids when they're older, or hang on to it. And he was just like, no, man, like, this, I want you to have it. he wasn't even asking me to do anything with it. He's like, I just want you to have it. I appreciate you being out here and trying to help. And you're a storyteller. If you wanted to use it, use it. If not, all good. Yeah, and I was still like very hesitant. Like, dude, this is your life. This is a recap of your life. It was like a moment that I felt a little uncomfortable, but also grateful that I had like built trust with this guy and a connection that was, I think, helping him maybe cope a little bit by telling me some of his family stories, walking me through the situation, having somebody listen to him and understand. So I told him, I said, hey, I appreciate you showing me through the house and everything that's happened. This is all great and really powerful. I just need one thing to really bring this full circle and be able to like actually utilize it to get more help out here for people like you and your neighbors. And that is, I need a statement back at the shelter, just saying, hey, we're staying at a Red Cross shelter and it's really helped us. That kind of thing that just brings the whole story for full circle to my client and makes it a usable asset for them. So he was like, all right, man, I'll do that for you. I get it. I'll do that for you. That'll be fine. So we got back to the shelter. I did a little quick interview with him outside. He was pretty nervous on camera, but he was also just so humble and thankful and genuine about the fact that he was glad to be alive. He's glad his daughters were alive and they had shelter and food, water, and all that. And they just want to get a trailer on the land he has up the road. So quite the experience. He was insistent that I take that journal with me. I got some photos with him and his family because the Red Cross was also writing articles about these stories and they needed images to go with it. So here's his family, his son and his daughter and his wife. That's where we interviewed him right there in front of the shelter. And then I said, let me get one shot of you with your journal, since you're giving this to me and this means a lot to you and you told your story, so I think this would be a great portrait of you. And that's this right here. So just a very cool, video journalism documentary type moment, I guess, just to connect with that person, have them share their story and open up that way after a traumatic experience. So I felt like that was like the peak of the trip right there, is getting his story on camera. Day 4, we got new information about where Red Cross had a lot of activity going on. It was actually up in South Georgia in a town called Valdosta. I had documented some of the Red Cross preparation in the morning in Tallahassee. Like they're loading up their ERVs, checking them all up, getting the rundown on the day, all the volunteers. And then we got to the movie theater parking lot in Valdosta where they were, they had all set up for a distribution of emergency supplies and food for anybody in the community in the area. I didn't realize like how that hurricane just went from the coast of Florida all the way up through Georgia and actually like wrecked a good chunk of South Georgia with the winds. This area, I got some really cool drone hyperlapses where we showed like the line of people. There was a line of people for about 3 hours just shuttling them through, and that was actually until they ran out of everything they had brought in for that day. All the supplies, the food. There were so many people that came to get supplies because they were out of power, out of food, needed just anything. They were handing out shovels, rakes, cleaning supplies, all sorts of stuff like that to help people get back on their feet and just clean up the mess the hurricane left. So that was cool to get some different shots there, got some testimonials too. Then we went over to a shelter that was about 20 minutes away from this site where they had another 30-40 people staying in there. And what ended up being the subject of the shelter was this family of 10 kids. This woman had 10 kids in here, and her home was destroyed in the area, and they were all staying, and they were just being kids, running around, playing with the ball, screaming, and all that stuff. So it's nice to see that they could still be kids, but sad to see that they were kind of stuck in the shelter. They did get Cracker Barrel for dinner, which was cool. So we did a little testimonial. We documented Red Cross interacting with them, and had the mother, get on camera to speak a little bit. She was very hesitant, but she ended up coming around to it and told a little bit of her story about her kids. I grabbed some of this footage that was kind of like that warm and fuzzy, and I wish I shot it in 60 actually, because it would have been solid in slow-mo or slowed down as well. But these were just like great shot, because Red Cross worker in Red Cross vest is hugging this kid that little girl had like clung to him since he got there and was playing ball with her or whatever. But I liked the shot because it was a Red Cross worker with a vest with a Red Cross symbol in the back. It was like very branded for them, so that worked out well. And that was the last shot that I got for the trip. That was end of day 4, and it ended up being same deal as the other nights. The hotels were all booked in the area. I ended up driving all the way to Gainesville, I think, and finding a hotel there before finishing the drive all the way home back to Orlando the next day. But wow, it was quite the experience, and they afterwards were like, hey, great job. Did you like the work? Would you do this again? I said, yeah, I think I would, and I think it was a good experience, and it's meaningful work, and I like that, and it contributes to something like bigger than just producing a video. So yeah, definitely. And we get hurricanes all the time here, so I'm sure that'll be an opportunity. So yeah, thanks for bearing with me on this first vlog. I really wanted to share this experience and document it and bring it to you guys. I had a lot of people ask me to share more of it, and I promised I would, so this is it. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop comments or message me or whatever. I would love to dive more into this kind of work going forward, or at least blend it into what I do. I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on some of the footage, and if you've had any gigs or jobs like this, because this was totally new for me again, and I'd love to just get people's perspectives on just how they would go about it and whatnot. So let me know. Hopefully I'll bring some more content to you guys, and we'll go from here, I guess. Thanks.